Moving on, let's once again discuss that night of complete and utter bedlam in Leeds as police cars were overturned and public transport was set on fire, with residents warned to stay at home. As you can see on your screens there, Leeds was burning in the suburb of Hare Hills. And joining us now to discuss this is a former Scotland Yard detective responsible for identifying suspects after the 2011 London riots. It's Mike Neville. Mike, welcome to the show. Can I specifically ask you, Mike, about your immediate reaction as a former serving police officer to the police response last night? Mike Neville, 8 hours of rioting, 1,000 individuals involved in that rioting, police vehicles caved in to the point of being write-offs, buses set on fire. There have been several arrests and we saw videos of police running away from danger. Mike, as somebody responsible for police actions, what's your take on last night's police response in Hare Hill?
Personally, Martin, I would rather stand and die rather than run away. I was a soldier first and then a police officer. And nothing worse for the public to see police officers running away because, of course, what do they do? What do you do if you're in fear? The police officers should be running towards danger, as we often see them do, not running away from it. And I think what we often see is this is an area which is it's detached from society. It is a heavily immigrant area. And I fear, again, that we see this two-tier policing in the sense if this was Leeds United fans protesting about the manager being sacked or something who set a bus on fire, the response would be rather more robust. So the initial response, I just don't think was good enough. You had the fire brigade hanging back again. We had when we had the Manchester Arena report, there's all sorts of comments about emergency services hanging back. And my view is once you put on that uniform, you put yourself at risk. That's the job. That's your duty, is it sense? So when we see the scenes you're seeing here of cars being smashed, it just sends out to people that they live in fear because the people who are supposed to protect them are not there.
Mike Neville, earlier on the show, we had Dame Andrea Jenkins, until recently a Conservative MP in a neighbouring constituency. She said she's been contacted by a raft of former constituents saying they feel that parts of Leeds are becoming no-go zones. We had Peter Blexley on the show earlier. He said the same thing now, and this is happening across many parts of Britain. And the common theme, Mike, that keeps coming up is this historical reluctance to police in areas of multicultural sensitivities. And you reap what you sow, right, Mike? We saw that with the grooming gang scandal. We're now seeing the police standing by and watching as these communities go into meltdown. Mike Neville, a serious question I want to ask you next. Do you think this is a taste of things to come? Could this get worse?
It could get worse. And what you don't have multiculturalism. You really have monoculturalism. You have little cultures which are just detached. And one of the ways you can prove this is to show how many 999 calls are made in an area. And I imagine in that area, very few 999 calls are ever made because the people police themselves. They don't involve anything to do with the British authorities. Things are dealt with themselves. And it is really bad at the moment that the police are not engaging with this. It isn't good enough. The police keep telling us they're recruiting different types of people and this and that, diversity schemes. They just need to recruit some good police officers. They stop recruiting ex-soldiers. They need to have officers who can respond where it's necessary in a robust manner. And when people are starting to set fire to buses and burn things down and putting people in real danger, it doesn't need to be talked about. It needs to be sorted out straight away.
Mike Neville, when you talk about communities policing themselves, there's another phrase for that, and it's called mob rule. We saw mob rule on the streets of Hare Hills last night. We saw the police running away from the mob. Mike, how do we fix this?
It's going to take a long time, Martin, because what you have is a whole clutch of senior officers who are of the same, there's no diversity of thought amongst them. They are convinced of their own righteousness. They went to the same universities, and they're convinced that having diversity schemes and whatever is the future. The fact that they don't detect any crime, they don't keep people safe, this really doesn't matter to them. And so what it needs is people imposing on the police who are going to do that. But I fear we had 14 years of a Conservative government who did nothing. I doubt the Labour Party are going to do anything because they rely on votes from this sort of area. And I fear for the country. And when I was a police officer, I always used to see myself as the protector of the little people. And the little people are the ones who can't fight back. They're the ones who live in fear. They're the ones in those houses there where there's flames all around, and all they want to do is live their life. And they're in fear because the police are not there, the fire brigade are not there, and it isn't good enough.